Stegall. I am treasurer of Richmond Columbian Properties. We are the organization that is hosting this event with the help of Indiana Landmarks, Place Economics, and Center for Community Progress. We'll go ahead and just begin right now, and if Mike Flowers will come up and introduce our first speaker.
Hi, I'm Mike Flowers. I work for the Eastern Region of Indiana Landmarks. I'm here to introduce Colin Compton and welcome you to the 2016 Quality of Place Conference. Colin Compton received his Bachelor of Fine Arts in Historic Preservation at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Before that, he did a Historic Preservation internship with the Western Reserve Historical Society. He also worked in residential painting, and he serves on the design board of the Magnolia Wade Park Historic District. And he joined CRS, Cleveland Restoration Society, in 2013. And he works with the city's eastern side as well as the eastern side of Cuyahoga County. And he processes loan applications and the projects on the east side. So please welcome Colin Compton.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Can everyone hear me? All right, great. I'm not excellent with microphones. My name's Colin Compton. I am originally from Cleveland. I'm here today to talk to you about the Heritage Home Program, which is the Cleveland Restoration Society's specialty home improvement program. My goals really with this presentation was to basically give you an overview of what the program is, how we set it up, and then also how it functions day to day. There we go. First, I want to start by giving you an overview of the Restoration Society itself. We are the largest non-governmental regional historic preservation organization in Ohio. We have a staff of 12 full-time professionals, several part-time professionals as well. We're headquartered near downtown. This is our building, the Sarah Benedict House from the late 1800s. And we have an annual operating budget at this point well over $1 million. Apart from the Heritage Home Program, we have a number of other services that we offer throughout Northeast Ohio. Within preservation services, we hold easements, we do register nominations and landmark designations. We do something really interesting called receiverships, which is in the state of Ohio, a nonprofit can essentially sue and take over a nuisance property and then transfer it to a new owner. The property on top that you see here is a receivership that we did. It's in a very prominent historic district, was threatened with demolition. We took title to it, transferred it to a new owner, and you'll see it pop up later in the presentation as well. We also do survey work, and then we have a yearly preservation awards ceremony. We have several advocacy committees, and those provide direct actions on specific threatened properties. And then we have a Sacred Landmarks Assistance Program. This provides technical assistance and fund sourcing to church congregations that have older buildings. The building that you see below is a church that is basically engulfed by the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, and in past years has been very threatened. We're working with that congregation now to try and source funding so that they can stay in their building, not have to sell. And then finally, for community engagement, we offer tours and snoops behind the scenes of projects that are in progress right now. And it's really our goal as an organization to tie together historic preservation and neighborhood development. We believe that historic preservation is a positive reinvestment in the community. It increases property values, improves investor confidence, and the end goal being leading to greater neighborhood stability. So with this goal in mind, we began the Heritage Home Program in 1992. It started very small, which is key. It started in 2 historic districts, one on the west side and one on the east side. And really, it did begin as more of a sort of white-gloved, pure preservation program where it was restricted to restoration work and pure preservation work. There were many restrictions and regulations on types of projects that one could do. However, as the housing market took a tumble and in Cleveland we faced a growing number of vacant properties, we opened the program up. We wanted more homes to be eligible. So we relaxed the restrictions, and we basically transitioned it from a pure preservation program to more of a general home improvement and maintenance program, but that stresses historic materials and a historic approach. And the end goal with this is basically to keep people in their houses and also to take back vacant housing while, again, stressing historic materials. So the Heritage Home Program and what it is basically two main services to homeowners. Firstly, we provide free technical assistance and advice on maintenance or improvement work, and we also have a low-interest financing option that homeowners can use to cover the cost of work around the house. In terms of eligibility, the home simply needs to be at least 50 years old. It doesn't need to be historic. It doesn't need to be in a district or anything like that, simply 50 years old. The home needs to be 3 units or less and, of course, be zoned as residential. And the house needs to be located in what we call a participating community. A participating community is an individual municipality that pays us a yearly contract fee so that all our services are available there to their older properties. The yearly contract fee is based upon the number of eligible houses in the community, the median income, and median home value. And currently we have 41 participating communities, and this is across 4 counties. So the map that you see here shows Cuyahoga County, which is where Cleveland is located. That's where a majority of our participating communities are. But we do branch out. We're to the east in the next county, to the south in the next county, and actually, interestingly, in Lucas County, Toledo, they basically were trained on the program and branded it, and they operate as the boots on the ground in Toledo as well. Correct. The green areas are participating communities. So you'll see towards the center is the city of Cleveland, which is divided into wards, and then the rest of the green are outlying suburbs, basically. So getting back to the 2 parts of the program, I'll focus first on our technical assistance services. And the technical assistance essentially is impartial advice on the preservation approach to maintenance and improvement work. In most scenarios, this starts with a site visit to the property. For a house in a participating community, this is totally free. We have 3 construction managers on staff, all of whom are former contractors who specialize specifically in older homes. So the site visit is a time for them to meet the homeowner at the house, go through any projects the homeowner may be considering, any problems they are concerned with, to give them their advice on where to start. Additionally, if the project is more preservation-based, materials, styles, we do, of course, have 4 members of staff who have advanced preservation degrees who would handle that type of site visit. One big part of this is helping homeowners to prioritize projects, because although they may call us interested in a shiny new kitchen, when we go out to their house to talk to them about the shiny new kitchen, we may also see, well, your chimney's leaning or your roof is at the end of its lifespan. So while still doing the kitchen as a great project, we need to address these health or code or safety issues as well. Because homeowners are going in and out of their houses every day, they're often not seeing these elements. So getting fresh eyes on the property can be really helpful in spotting possible problems. Following the site visit, if a homeowner needs assistance with bidding out a project and isn't really sure where to start, we can at the very least provide them with a couple names of contractors that we've worked with in the past or that other homeowners have had a good response with, so that say they need to get a new roof, we can provide them with 3 names for them to start making calls and getting estimates on that project. As those estimates come back, we're happy to sit down and look at those with them. So we're going to look at pricing, we're going to look at materials to help them make a decision as to which option may be best for them. And in recent years, talk of energy efficiency has been very big, especially in Northeast Ohio. We talk about energy, or we talk about insulation, we talk about window repair, storm windows, And we always stress the importance of, or the value in getting an energy audit done. Because although you know, in the wintertime your home may be cold and you call a window company, they're going to say, oh, absolutely, it's your windows, replace your windows. From a majority of the energy audits I've seen, it's not the windows, it's your insulation, which is far less expensive. So, and yields a far greater return. So this is an example of being an impartial source for this type of advice, which you wouldn't necessarily get from a contractor or a window replacement company. And then what's really fun is that we do color consultations. So if a homeowner has an older home and they're considering doing exterior painting, we'll go to the house, we walk around with them taking photos, talk to them about the style of their home, talk to them about colors they may be drawn to, and then we use a historic color palette from there to pull together a couple color schemes that would be appropriate to the age and style of the home. And we send those out to the homeowner so that they can, you know, start doing the testing of paint swatches on the outside. And we really do stress that this technical assistance is truly the heart and soul of the program. This is one of the only sources for impartial advice on work around the property. Last year in 2015, we provided technical assistance to over 1,500 properties. This year in 2016 alone, and it's June, almost July, we've provided technical assistance to 932 properties. We track all of this. So this really is where we spend a majority of our staff time. And then part two that I'll get into as well is our financing option. The financing option that we have available is a low interest fixed rate loan, and it can be used to cover the cost of maintenance or improvement work around the property. Eligible projects are both on the interior and the exterior. We have no income cap on this. And for exterior projects, we do provide construction specifications. So for projects like painting or roofing, these will outline to the contractor proper materials and procedures. This is done to try to ensure that a long-lasting, correct job is done. In terms of loan terms, the interest rate in Cuyahoga County, where Cleveland is located, is a fixed rate of 2%. And in Cleveland proper is a fixed rate of 1.4%. So this is far, far below market rate. Loan amounts can be anywhere between $3,000 and $150,000. It is based on the equity in the property, but as determined by what's called an after rehab appraisal. So instead of the bank assessing the home value right now, what they're doing is the homeowner is collecting their estimates, and the appraisal is done based upon what the home will be worth once those projects are complete. So this is extremely powerful for undervalued properties, vacant properties, because if the homeowner is doing work that is going to make that property livable again, if the homeowner is doing projects like kitchen or bathroom remodeling that is a value-added project, this can really help, especially again in a city like Cleveland where our housing values have taken a tumble. In terms of lending criteria, it is standard as with any other loan, so the bank does look at same credit requirements, debt to income. The term is between 5 and 10 years. We do work on both owner-occupied and income or rental properties. And one really interesting aspect of this is that the signed loans are actually escrowed through the Cleveland Restoration Society. So if a homeowner signs a loan for $10,000 and it's for a new roof, say, instead of the bank saying, here's your money, good luck, they actually send the money to me, scary enough. And we contract with the contractor and with the homeowner. So this sets up standards of work, time periods, payment scheduling, and as the contractor comes and completes portions of the job, we cut checks from there. So work is always done based on work that's been completed. This also helps to prevent situations where a homeowner gives a contractor a down payment and the contractor's gone. So this is really a lot of hand-holding with the homeowner. And I wanted to give two really powerful examples of the after rehab appraisal. This house is in the city of Cleveland. It was vacant. Homeowners purchased it for $9,000. I believe this was purchased from the land bank. Purchased it for $9,000. It needed work from the chimney all the way to the basement. They pulled together their project scope, they did the loan application. The finished product and the appraisal allowed them to borrow $150,000 at 1.4% to do the entire property. And then this harkens back to the receivership property that I highlighted. This was one, again, that was vacant. We took it over, transferred it to the owner that is still in it today. And over the past 30 years, they've used that after rehab appraisal to take the house from, as you see it above, boarded up and destroyed on the inside, to one of the best on the street. So the loan can be used more than once. To offer the financing option itself, there are several partnerships that are necessary. Firstly, we have our lending institutions. These are the banks that actually underwrite the loan. They are the entities that take all the personal and financial information from the borrower. Those are not documents that we take. The county that we're located in, they are the entity that subsidizes or buys down that interest rate. It's what's known as a linked deposit agreement. So they are the entity that subsidizes to 2% and 1.4%. And then the Ohio Housing Finance Agency lends throughout the state and outside our county, and specifically to low mod borrowers. And there are benefits for all three parties for participating in this. Lending institutions get Community Reinvestment Act credits. The county obviously gets reinvestment in properties and therefore tax revenue. And the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, this essentially is their aim, is housing throughout the state. I also want to get back to eligible projects and talk about those a bit, because as I said, we did open up the program quite a bit. So most projects are eligible for the loan. On the exterior, roofing, waterproofing, and painting are very common. And on the interior, kitchen remodeling and bathroom remodeling are very, very common. It's really easier to say what projects are not eligible for the loan because that's a shorter list. So per our preservation mission as an organization, we do not fund any vinyl products. It's okay if the house already has vinyl products on it. That does not make it ineligible, but we would not fund new vinyl windows or new vinyl siding. Additionally, we do small additions, but nothing that would be inappropriate or incompatible to the existing house. So we look at addition plans to see where's the addition going, what are the materials. If we need to suggest compromises to the design, we do that when possible. Per our contract with the county, they do not let us fund any sort of luxury items like decks, spas, or pools, and then they do not let us do any landscaping. From their point of view, which makes sense, they want us to focus on the house itself. And then the only thing that the bank will not fund is a removable appliance, like a refrigerator or a microwave. Since this is an equity-based loan, if you were to sell the house, you could really take that with you. In terms of economic impact, it's not just our word backing this up. Cleveland State University has done 2 studies on our program. The first was done in 2003. What it found overall is that there was a disproportionate increase in value, market value of the properties that had used our loan compared to other properties. And additionally, within 1/10 of a mile, there was a ripple effect. So this disproportionate increase in value also rippled out to the properties that had done essentially nothing or little. And then following the mortgage crisis, in 2013, they did a follow-up study, wanting to see how the properties that had used our loan fared that period of time. What they found is that the length of time that homeowners in heritage properties stayed in their houses was much longer than average, and also that our properties had 1/5 the rate of foreclosure compared to the county average. And that's not just a foreclosure on the heritage loan, that's a foreclosure on any lien associated with the property. The first one is, I can get to you. The second one I don't believe has been published yet. So I don't think I am able to provide that to you. But the first one I can. I have it in PDF form so I can email it to anyone who's interested. I also want to highlight basically day-to-day activities. A big part of this is working with our various participating communities. Being that there are 41 of them right now, 41 individual municipalities that are paying us, we have to do a lot of work to advertise to and to report to these cities. Firstly, we do direct marketing to homeowners. Our primary way of doing this are 2 direct mail campaigns, one in the spring and one in the fall. The way that we do this is that we send out postcards to every eligible house in each participating community that advertises who we are, what we offer, and when possible includes the date and location of an information session. So each one of these is customized to the participating community. And I also want to highlight here, a question we often get is why the Heritage Home Program is sort of branded separately from the Cleveland Restoration Society. Why is it a separate website and all that? The reason for this is we want this program to be available outside of Cleveland and branded to every independent community. So having Cleveland attached to it doesn't make sense, especially in Toledo or Akron. But we also want this to be, as you see here, the Cleveland Heights Heritage Home Program, the Heritage Home Program in Ward 3. We want this to be customized to every single community. Another form of marketing, which is the most successful, is we ask every community to do a letter from the mayor. This is sent at their expense. The letter from the mayor is our best form of advertising. It's the mayor getting behind our services and telling homeowners, number one, this is not a scam. People get our postcards in the mail and a lot of them throw them out. This is too good to be true. I can't trust this. So the letter from the mayor really does put oomph behind it that this is a real service. And again, with these, we, as often as possible, like to include the date and location of an information session so that homeowners can come and come to a presentation like this to see that we are real humans. Additionally, we do all sorts of home fairs and like this event, presentations to the community, because it really helps for homeowners to be able to come see someone in person, ask specific questions. And then we always, when possible, advertise via print. So every city has a newsletter. Most of them are online at this point. And we also ask our cities to put us on their Facebook, on their city website, etc. And then in terms of reporting to the city, we track every single inquiry that we get from a homeowner. We track every site visit that we do with notes. This is all entered into a database. So we have numbers to report to every single community to say, in 2015, this number of homeowners called, we did this number of site visits, this is the estimated project value of those. This is really important to help the city justify the payment to us and to show that there is an investment or an interest from the homeowner. We produce a monthly newsletter to our participating communities called Field Notes, which highlights what we've been doing recently. We attend as many city events as humanly possible. And at the end of the year, we are very involved in getting in front of every single participating community for a meeting to report our statistics and to ask them to renew for the following year. And most cities renew every single year. And then finally, of course, advertising-wise, we use our website. For all of you, this is a really good snapshot of not just what I'm presenting here, but also from the homeowners' perspective, what their process is like for scheduling a site visit or what their process is like for applying for the loan. That's all outlined on this. There's also the preservation toolbox, which you'll see at the bottom right, and that is a resource for homeowners to go into, and it has all these different projects, roofing, painting, carpentry, and talks about best practices for those types of projects. And like I said, we started in 1992. This is our 24th year. So it starts small. It has to start small, and you grow from there. It's just within the last 5, 6, 7 years that we have grown to the scale that we are today. It really takes a lot of time to set this up. But in those 24 years, we've provided technical assistance to over 10,000, almost 11,000 times. We track project value. We discussed projects in excess of $250 million. And right now, as of yesterday when I left the office, we're tracking 1,337 loans. Project value on that is $51 million. In the past few years, our number of signed loans across the board has been staggering. We did 117 last year and 130 the year before, which was an all-time high for the program. I have on the table over here brochures, and I have my business card. So if there's anything that information-wise that you'd like to request from me, you can absolutely feel free. I go to Indianapolis after this for the rest of the weekend, so I can respond to you next week when I'm back in office. But I'm also happy right now to take any questions that anyone may have. Yes?
On those loans, do you have a minimum time when the owner has to stay in the house?
The question is, on the loan, is there a minimum time limit or seasoning for them to live there? No. They could buy the house today and apply for the loan tomorrow, which happens because, once they sign for the loan? No. No period of time that they have to wait before selling or anything like that. Once the homeowner additionally signs for the loan, we give them 18 months to finish all their projects. So we're tracking those projects to ensure that they're going to be done within that time period, but we're, like a 203K loan, they don't have 6 months or whatever it is. We give them 18 months to do everything.
Is there a preservation covenant placed on the property perpetual or only during the loan period?
He asked, is there a preservation covenant on the property? No. What we do have in our contracts with the homeowner is that during the time that their project is active, so to speak, so that 18-month time period, that there are restrictions that they agree not to do any vinyl products during that time period. But we do not put any sort of restriction on the property moving forward.
What sort of software do you use for tracking inquiries? Is it Excel or is there something else fancy to use?
Question is, what type of software do we use for tracking all our statistics? We use Salesforce, which was actually designed for, I don't want to say commercial, but retail. But we've also actually found that it works very well for us. Previously, we had used Microsoft Access, but we've just transferred over. Yes?
Is there an average you could get that the cities provide in that buyback amount? Like, what are they actually investing and how are they funding that?
I want to go back to the map for this question. The question is what are participating fees like per city? So like I said, it's not just based on the number of houses, but also income and home value. So a city, there it is. A city like Cleveland Heights right here has about 12,000 eligible houses and a very strong or pretty stable housing market. Their fee for the year is about $20,000. Next door, a city like East Cleveland or South Euclid, which has a comparable number of eligible houses, but their median income and home value is lower. East Cleveland's fee for the year is about $4,000, I believe, and South Euclid's is maybe $10,000. So those are the higher ends. It usually works out to ideally about $1 a house in most scenarios. Some of our communities down here that have maybe 100 or 50 eligible houses, their fee for the year is about $100.
The contractors that you recommend, are they required to show any capacity for working with older houses? How do you vet them?
Yeah, question is, how do we vet contractors? We rely mostly on projects that we've completed in the recent past. So since we're escrowing everything, we're working directly with those contractors. We're doing progress checks. So we're seeing work as it's progressing. In addition to that, at the very minimum, we ask them to provide us with references on recently completed jobs, references on where they hold accounts. So we really prefer only to give out names for people that we have seen positive results from in the very near past. We always do tell homeowners it can't be, unfortunately, a recommendation, though, because a contractor can do great work for 20 years, and this project, they have a family issue and it goes awry. But we always like to provide names of ones that we've worked with right in the near past, not ones that we worked with 2 or 3 years ago. Yes?
So are you aware of any movement in the direction of setting up a program like this in Southwest Ohio? It seems so investing
Question is any knowledge of this elsewhere in Ohio, specifically Southwest Ohio. We discussed with Columbus, and they had looked into it a number of years, and we hear from them every once in a while. I don't believe we've heard from Cincinnati yet, but don't quote me on that. If you're from Cincinnati and want to talk about that, I'm more than happy. Yes?
apply to smaller counties, smaller communities such as Richmond?
Question is, how can this apply to smaller communities or smaller counties? Kind of two-part answer to that is, number one, I think size is a benefit. Small size is a benefit for starting out because there are so many elements that have to be in place that we've been approached by so many organizations in the past that want to do it for the whole county, but starting that is really difficult. In a small community, it's much easier because you have local lending partners and maybe local foundations that are more agreeable to that scale of work. And then additionally, where we've sort of licensed the program, like in Toledo, we did it for a while in Mansfield as well. They started on a small scale working in specific historic districts because although their city may have been 30, 50, 60,000 people, they wanted to start out focusing on these historic districts. Then if the program was a success in those districts, then expand it from there. Also, I think what's really interesting is that we've had a lot of interest from land banks. In Toledo, the program is actually funded and run by the land bank. So instead of just being an organization that's focusing on blight removal, they wanted to have another option. So they licensed the program and they are operating it there under their offices, which I think has worked the best so far that we've experienced. Yes?
We discussed this a little bit last night. Land banking seems to be a viable tool in Ohio and Indiana. It doesn't get much recognition. Could we explain land banking?
And one of the other speakers might be much better at speaking to this than I am, but the question is regarding land banking. In Cuyahoga County, we have a very robust and well-funded land bank. It focuses on blight removal throughout the county, and they get a lot of funding to do this. In Cleveland, we have a surplus of vacant housing, so they focus on either mothballing or removal of those vacant properties, but they also can take title to them and transfer or sell them to a new owner. So there are a number of homeowners. I'm doing a project like this right now that's in progress, that the homeowner bought a gorgeous slate-roofed home from the mid-century era from the land bank for $5,000. Of course, it needs work everywhere, but they're using our loan program because as soon as they took title to it, they could do the application, they knew what their projects were, they had their estimates in hand. So the appraisal's not based on that $5,000 purchase price, it's based on the finished product. So since they were able to pay cash for the property, there's no first mortgage on the property, the heritage loan is the only lien. We're hoping, it's in progress, that they're going to be able to borrow, close to $100,000 to do the entire project. So that's one way that we work very closely with land banks. For your question, I would really defer to one of the later speakers.
Do you think that because this program exists and there is that option for houses to be rehabbed, that the land bank is willing to take that extra step to think, okay, which one of these houses that we just took on can be mothballed and paid for an investor versus the ones that need to go? And do you think this delays that this has to be demolished decision?
We're working on that right now. We are taking a list that both the city has and the county land bank has, thousands of properties, and we've gone through them to try to, and gone to every single property also, and try to pull out those that are on a very stable street, maybe that are in a historic district, maybe that are overall very structurally sound, so that we can help the city and the county identify those properties that need to be reassessed. They are becoming very agreeable to this, it seems, because they, again, want to be an organization that's helping with stabilization of a block, and if they can avoid on a stable block an empty lot and instead get an owner occupant in there, that's great. So we are working on that, and they've been very agreeable thus far. Yes? The question is, do contractors use our services to flip houses? Very rarely. We, for whatever reason, work primarily, and this is not intentional, with owner occupants. Because we have a very specific process in terms of payments, escrowing, and all that, contractors that are interested in a very quick flip often shy away from our program. I do occasionally do an investment property, though, that the owner will then rent out. And they may be working, especially contractors, as a self-contractor on the project, which is fine as well. So we do work with investors, but not often flippers.
Can we look at the model or consider commercial property?
Question is, have we considered a program like this for commercial properties? Yes, for many years now. Again, these take many, many years to set up. So we would like to do a model like this for commercial properties as well, even mixed use, older mixed use properties.
Community wants to come in to participate. How are the eligible houses identified?
How are the eligible houses identified? We do it two ways. Firstly, we use census, essentially both ways use census data. There's, within Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, there's a program through Case Western Reserve where you can go in and run a report for a specific municipality of all the housing, and it uses, according to the property record, when the house was built. It also lists the number of units. So we use that to pull the number of eligible houses, and then we double check that with U.S. Census data as well. Also, sometimes the cities will have a record of all their housing as well.
Outside of the participating community fees, how else are you funded? What are primary funding mechanisms?
Outside of participating communities fees, how are we funded? The fees really are the primary way that we're funded. We also, of course, being a nonprofit, get grants wherever we can get them. So Cleveland Foundation, there is a grant through them. For a signed loan, we do have a small fee for the homeowner too. Since we are at the house all the time and we're essentially, without being project managers, there's a small technical assistance fee, which even for an enormous loan, it's generally 1% to 2% of the total amount. That's a very small fraction of it, but a majority of it are those fees from the cities.
How many staff people do you have and what qualifications are you asking for in various levels?
How many staff and what are their qualifications? So we have three, like I mentioned, 3 construction managers. All 3 are former contractors that owned their own companies and specifically worked with older properties. 2 of them have been with us for over 20 years. 1 of them is newer. And then in office, there are 4 of us, and all of us have degrees in historic preservation. So if it's a question of materials or a question of style, that comes back to us. So total, for a program that services, at last count, approaching 200,000 households, there are 7 of us. Again, another reason why it takes so much time to set this up is that we have a very clearly delineated process. So a homeowner does this, then they do this, then they do this, then they do this. So this helps us with the sheer volume that we get, kind of get homeowners through this process and make it as clear-cut as possible. But this time of year is very, very busy for us.
How did this all get started? Was this somebody sitting in a Starbucks? And, how did the dynamics start with this?
How was this started? Again, it was much before my time, but the president of our organization works very, very closely with the county and the city, and this was the county and the city and a handful of other municipalities coming together and saying, what options do we have for funding? The county, Cuyahoga County, has a few other specialty loan programs. They are primarily non-equity based, so more unsecured loans, and they're in most scenarios a higher interest rate. So that's something that happened well before my time, but we do so much work directly with the county and the city in terms of survey work and reviewing properties that this was all 3 parties coming together, including the banks, saying what are our options. Again, there are benefits for all 3 parties. The bank benefits from this, not just CRA credits, but also we pull so many new clients to them that would not have used that bank maybe previously or weren't using that bank, so they benefit from that phenomenally. So from the beginning, it was not just our brainchild. It was a 3-way scheme, so to speak. Yes.
I saw that you had KeyBank mentioned. What other banks do you use, or do
in the banks that we use. In Cuyahoga County, it's Key Bank. We're talking to a few others. There is quite a bit of background, back of house negotiations in that because they have to be comfortable with getting into contract. In Toledo, there's a local bank, Waterford Bank. So what's really, really key to this, from what we've seen thus far, is getting a local lending partner, someone that's based in the community, that understands the community, that not only would benefit from the credits, but would also benefit from essentially the PR. That's been really key.
Could you talk a little bit more about community reinvestment credits and why those are beneficial to community institutions?
Maybe a little. The benefits of Community Reinvestment Act credits. These are credits that the banks get from the government for specific types of community or housing improvement practices that they do throughout their footprint states and cities. To be honest, my knowledge of them is not intimate, but it's not something we get reports on or anything like that, but it's something that the banks are always after, and this is a really good way for them to get those credits while also doing lending, whereas elsewhere they have to get those credits while kind of not getting another benefit aside from PR maybe.
I know you have requirements for the house to be invested in, that it is suitable, and that you're resulting in investing in houses that wouldn't normally be able to be invested in, I think because of the strictures of your program. Do you also have sort of things that are helpful that a person who might not normally be able to get a housing loan could benefit from this program? That is, I guess I'm asking, the people that you're giving loans to, are they people who might not be able to get loans otherwise also?
If it's a question, are they people that might not be able to get loans otherwise? The way we're most successful is when it's because they can't get a loan because of home value. So the bank still does assess standard credit and standard debt to income, things like that. So if it's an income question, I don't have much say on that or influence on that. But the way that the appraisal is done for an undervalued project, that's where we come in and are able to help those properties and those neighborhoods that maybe based just on comps, a bank would never look at. So that's primarily where we're of value.
So the evaluation of the people getting the loan is pretty standard.
Is standard, yes. Yes.
Are there other programs like this across the United States that you could give some idea?
There are a few here and there. Ours, to our knowledge, that we found is the largest. Other programs like this. I believe Pittsburgh runs something similar to this. The others I couldn't name off the top of my head.
Do you have any idea of small communities that have done this?
On their own, not off the top of my head, no. But it's very replicable. And again, I think that in a small community is the best way to begin because you have to absolutely start small.
What's the market like? Do you have to go out and recruit people to buy these houses, or are people clamoring? Are there people already in them clamoring for your services?
Oh yeah, there are people clamoring for our services, absolutely. In Cleveland, there's a big shift back to the city happening right now. So we don't have to necessarily recruit people for houses. Our organization for an endangered property will often do advertising. This property is available, things like that. But we really don't have to, the homeowners basically essentially come to us. And another thing that we offer, and speaking to that, is that our site visits and technical assistance are not just necessarily if you own the property, but also if you're considering purchasing the property. We do a number of site visits with homeowners. As long as we have legal access to be at that house, we'll go to the house and assess with them to say, these are the projects you're going to have to do right away. These are the ones that you can do next year. These are the ones you can do in 2 years. So we do assist in that way with potential purchases.
Do you collaborate with realtors? They pass out your brochures?
Oh, yeah. Do we collaborate with realtors? Absolutely, yeah. We try to get in front. There are a number of larger local realtors in the Cleveland area, and we try to get in front of their regional staff meetings to do this essentially. And then we have a number of realtors that always have our brochures on hand. We have a number of contractors that always have our brochures on hand too. Contractors actually, in most scenarios, if they're a good upstanding contractor that follows standard proper procedure, they really like working with us, because if they're working with Mrs. Smith on her roof, they don't know if Mrs. Smith's check is good at the end of the day. With us, they essentially are guaranteed if they do a good job, if they complete the work, the money is sitting there waiting for them. We also act as a really good mediator. So we're not just working for the homeowner and not just working for the contractor. We're in between. So if a homeowner says, they said my roof was going to cost $10,000, that's ridiculous. We might come in and say, the state of your roof is such that we do not believe that this price is outlandish. This is something that has to be done. So don't feel like you're being taken advantage of. So contractors also really, the good ones really like working with us. And we like working with the good ones. Yes?
What happens to Mrs. Smith when she writes a bad check?
What happens to Mrs. Smith when she writes a bad check? And we're not involved in the project?
Well, you said that the contractors
Mhm.
is covered. What happens to a homeowner who basically defaults?
Defaults on the heritage loan? In our 24 years, I believe the number of defaults at last check with KeyBank was 3, by the way. If they were to default on the loan, that would, since it is an equity-based loan, it's a lien on the property. So at any point that property was taken back, that lien would be satisfied essentially. That would be the only scenario where my example of Mrs. Smith's check not being bad is if she was just paying cash for the project. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
Would your organization be available to consultants in other communities who want to set up a program like this?
Would our organization be able to consult with other communities who want to set this up? Absolutely. We've spoken to organizations throughout Ohio. We've spoken to Buffalo in the past. We spoke to an organization in Texas. So we're more than happy to give them the information on, again, how this works and how it's set up, because we do believe that it can be replicated. So yes, that is available.
We have just a few moments to take your questions.
Go ahead.
Colin, how do your contractors, the ones that you have internally and the ones that you deal with daily, how do they keep up with the skill level of what is needed for this restoration to draw the young people into those contractors?
Oh,
How do you keep the whole ball rolling?
in terms of new blood, in terms of the companies?
To get the young people to understand.
Yeah, how do we get...
Have the skills to do the job that you're requiring.
How do we get young people in? That's a really good question. And my take on that, since graduating school, going to college for a preservation degree, and coming back, is that I came to this realization that this was never presented to me as an option of going into a specialty trade. I think that in our area, the trade school just isn't there to train these professionals. A majority of the contractors that I know that are training new blood, so to speak, are family members. They see that this is a viable job, that there's security there, which if you know how to do plumbing or electrical, you'll never look for work again, because we're looking for you as a new contractor. So in terms of getting new blood, trade schools I wish were more prevalent in our area, but really it's contractors pulling in from those that I work with, those that they know as sort of the next generation. I think it's an issue that we're approaching, especially with specialty trades.
In Madison, we've often thought of this issue and we've talked about apprentice programs.
Mm-hmm.
Would those family-owned contractors who have a son or a nephew that carry on, would they ever consider starting an apprentice program? Because I think this is valuable nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere from a small community to 41 communities.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, an apprentice program is a brilliant idea. It's something I was talking to a couple weeks ago with a contractor that was a specialty floor finisher, which he worked on 1850s, 1860s, old growth, sourcing wood, wide planks. And he has since retired and has said that at this point I still want to be a little involved, so he's come to us and said I'd be interested in teaching some classes. I think that an apprentice program would be brilliant. I don't think it's something that we could really run, but the trades would be absolutely brilliant at that. Yes?
Do you know the demographic profile of the type of general type person that goes for these loans and goes through your program? Also, as that neighborhood grows, what type of person is attracted to that demographically as well? And how does it affect, as it grows and increases in value with your fee assessment, and how many times is that fee assessment occurring?
So the fee, I'll start with the fee because that's the easiest. That's only on a signed loan, so that doesn't, as the property appreciates, there's no additional fee. If they sign a loan, there's our management fee on that loan, which is based on that amount, and that's included in the loan amount, not paid out of pocket. That never changes. In terms of demographics, we do, within the city of Cleveland, we are required to track demographics for reporting to the city. So I don't specifically do that. One of my coworkers does. So we would have demographic info on that, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't. What's really interesting about our loan is that it's a really great interest rate. We attract not just the people that are looking for a great interest rate to remodel their kitchen, but also the people that could only do this roof project with this interest rate and with our hand holding. We try to take as much extra time with older or single homeowners as possible in order to assist with that, because apart from our service, they don't have much hand holding. So within the city of Cleveland, we do have demographic information. We don't track it in the suburbs, though.
For the municipality, how does that affect as far as the assessment? Is it
Does the demographic, does the number of people?
yeah, well, the number of people as they come in, if they're trying to do the neighborhood changing of the income, how often is that fee assessed?
Yeah, how often is the fee reassessed? In my 3 years there, we have not reassessed the fee based on values or anything. Last year, I think we did like a 2% increase on the fee across the board to every city, which was just to account for increased activity across the board. So we have not reassessed based on how housing has improved or number of people utilizing the program. That does not change the fee, or has not changed the fee. You're gonna cut me off? I'll answer your question elsewhere.
Well, if this is any indication of how our conference is going to go, it's going to be fantastic, huh?
Thank you.
We'll take a few moments to get a bathroom break and maybe another cup of coffee. Colin will be up here if you have more questions for him. We'll go ahead and take a few moments to stretch your legs.